Hello everybody. Today we are going to talk about the cerebellum, the structure, nuclei, connection and functions. Main objectives which are going to complete today are the white and grey matter of cerebellum, peduncles of cerebellum, deep cerebellar nuclei, structure of the cerebellar cortex, its connections, functions and applied aspects. White and grey matter of cerebellum. So cerebellum consists of outer grey matter known as cortex and an inner layer of white matter known as medulla. So this white matter appears just like a tree, hence it is called as arbora vitae. The white matter is composed of incoming and outgoing fibers projecting to and from the cerebellar cortex. It brings sensory and motor sensations from the cerebellum. So main connections of cerebellum. The fibers connecting or leaving the cerebellum are grouped into three peduncles. So three peduncles connected to the brainstem are superior, middle and inferior peduncles. Superior peduncle is connected to the midbrain. Middle peduncle is connected to the pons and inferior peduncle to the medulla. The superior peduncle brings in efferent fibers, whereas middle and inferior are afferent fibers. Here you can see the three peduncles. Superior peduncle connected to the midbrain, the middle peduncle to the pons, and the inferior peduncle to the medulla oblongata. The peduncles are continuous into white matter. So white matter of both sides form a thin lamina of fibers in the floor of the fourth ventricle. Its upper part forms the superior medullary vellum. Its inferior part forms the inferior medullary vellum. Both take part in the formation of the roof of the fourth ventricle. Its outer layer, thin layer covering the central core of white matter. Embedded within the white matter are masses of grey matter called as cerebellar nuclei. The deep cerebellar nuclei are dentate nucleus, emboliform nucleus, globose nucleus and vestigial nucleus. Both the emboliform and globoses are called as nucleus interpositus. Now we'll take up each of this nuclei separately. The dentate nucleus lies in the center of each hemisphere. It resembles the inferior olivary nucleus. So it has a crumpled purse-like appearance. So it contains a thin lamina of grey matter folded upon itself. The hilum is directed medially. Emboliform nucleus lies on medial side of the dentate nucleus. Globose nucleus lies medial to the emboliform nucleus, and vestigial nucleus lies close to the midline in the anterior superior vermis. So coming to the connections and functions of the nuclei of cerebellum. Nucleus vestigi, it is so main afferents are from the vestibular apparatus through the vestibular nerve and vestibulocerebellum via vermis and flocculonodular lobe. Efferents to the vestibular nuclei, reticular formation of medulla, thalamus, midbrain, visceral centers of brainstem, and medial accessory and main inferior olivary nucleus. Main functions are control of muscle action, that is axial and proximal limb muscles in response to labyrinthine stimuli. Nucleus emboliformis and nucleus globosus from the paravermal area of the spinocerebellum. So main efferents to the red nucleus, thalamus, reticular formation, pontine nuclei, dorsal accessory olivary nucleus. So this nucleus, both these nuclei controls crude movements of the limbs. The last nucleus is the nucleus dentatus. So it's basically from the neocerebellum or lateral part of the cerebral hemispheres. So main efferents to the thalamus, red nucleus, oculomotor nucleus, inferior olivary nucleus, and reticular formation. So main functions are, it controls highly skilled voluntary movements, basically precision movements. So coming to the structure of the cerebellar cortex, the cerebellar cortex has a uniform structure in all its parts. It is divided into 3 layers: molecular layer, Purkinje cell layer, and granular layer. The neurons in the cortex are 5 main types. In the outer layer we have the stellate cells and basket cells. The middle layer or the Purkinje layer contains the Purkinje cells, and inner granular layer contains the granule cells and Golgi cells. So both the stellate and basket cells are present in the molecular layer, Purkinje cells in the Purkinje cell layer, granule and Golgi cells both in the granular layer. Now we'll take up each of these layers separately. So in the molecular layer, we are going to find the stellate cells and basket cells. So stellate cells, the afferents receive from the parallel fibers and efferents to the Purkinje cells, Purkinje cell dendrites mainly. Basket cells, afferents from the parallel fibers and efferents the Purkinje cell soma. Apart from this, we are going to find the parallel fibers, that is coming from the granule cell axons and Purkinje cell dendrites. So stellate cells confined to the molecular layer, the dendrites synapse with the parallel fibers of the granule cells, and axons synapse with the dendrites of the Purkinje cells. They are inhibitory in function. Next, the basket cells in the molecular layer. So they lie in the deeper part. So dendrites synapse with the parallel fibers of granule cells, and axons synapse with 100 to 200 Purkinje cell soma. These are also inhibitory in function. So parallel fibers are axons of granule cell axons. Apart from this, we are going to find the dendrites of the Purkinje cells in this particular molecular layer. Next, we are going to find the second layer, which is called as the Purkinje cell layer. Mainly, you are going to find is the Purkinje cells, almost 150 lakhs in number. So afferents received by it are from parallel fibers and climbing fibers, stellate cells and basket cells, efferents to the deep cortical nuclei. So each Purkinje cell is a large flask shaped. It contains dendrites which are placed superiorly and form elaborate dendritic tree. They contain spines and they synapse with the parallel fibers, that is the axons of granule cells. Apart from that, it is also synapsing with the basket cells and climbing fibers. The axons of the Purkinje cells are placed inferiorly into the granular layer. They synapse with the neurons of the cerebellar nuclei. They are inhibitory neurons. Axons give collaterals which synapse with the Golgi cells. So coming to the third layer, that is the granule cell layer. So large number of granule cells are seen. So afferents are received from the mossy fibers and efferents to the Purkinje cell axon, basket cells, stellate cells and Golgi cells. Apart from these granular cells, we are going to find the Golgi cells. They receive afferents from the parallel fibers and mossy fibers form rosettes and efferents from the granular cell layer dendrites. So now we will take up both the cells. So granule cells, they are small, spherical and numerous. Dendrites, 3 to 5 short claw-like endings which enter the glomeruli where they synapse with the terminals of mossy fibers. The axons enter molecular layer and subdivide at right angles, that is forming like a T, called parallel fibers. They synapse with the dendrites of 300 to 400 Purkinje cell neurons. Next, coming to the Golgi neurons, they are large stellate shaped, present in the granular layer. The dendrites enter molecular layer, branch profusely, synapse with the parallel fibers. Some ramify in the granular layer. The axons branch profusely. They form glomeruli. Each Golgi cell corresponds to about 10 Purkinje cells. So these are also inhibitory in function. So coming to the fibers, we have two types of fibers, mossy fibers and climbing fibers. So mossy fibers, these terminate in granular cell cortex. They branch profusely within the granular layer. They end in expanded terminal called rosettes. All other efferents end as mossy fibers. They are excitatory in function. Each mossy fiber synapse with 400 granule cells. Coming to the climbing fibers, these reach the outer layer, that is the molecular layer. They synapse with the dendritic tree of one Purkinje cell, mainly from olivocerebellar fibers and predominantly as climbing fibers. So this is important, and these are excitatory in function. Next, coming to the structure of a glomeruli, these are complex synaptic structures. These are seen in the third layer, that is the granular cell layer. So the main structure forming the glomeruli are the mossy fibers. The termination forms a rosette. So they are enlarged to form a rosette. They are going to synapse with the granular cell dendrites and Golgi cell axons. These synapse with the granular cell dendrites. Occasionally they may synapse with the rosette also. And these are covered by the neuroglial capsule. So the main synaptic glomerulus, afferent terminals on the granular layer. So mossy fibers, afferent fibers except inferior alveolar input. So 2/3 of the medullary center. Then granular cell dendrites, main afferent input. Golgi cell axons, synapse on the granular cell dendrite. They are surrounded by astrocytic foot processes. Here you can see the outer molecular layer. the middle Purkinje cell layer and inner granular layer. So in the granular layer, the synaptic glomeruli, which is formed by the mainly by the mossy fiber as well as the granule cells, and apart from that we are going to find is the Golgi cells also. So it mainly consists 3 nerve fibers in the white matter, axons of Purkinje cells, the only axons to leave the cerebellar cortex to end in the deep cerebellar nuclei, especially the dentate nucleus. Mossy fibers end in the granular layer and climbing fibers in the molecular layer. The internal circuitry of cerebellum do not leave the cerebellum, interconnect different regions in the cerebellum. Some connect the same side, some connect the two cerebellar hemispheres. So cerebellar afferents via superior cerebellar peduncle and from inferior cerebellar peduncle. Cerebellar efferents via middle cerebellar peduncle and inferior cerebellar peduncle. The intrinsic pathway. Afferent pathways to cerebellar cortex excite Purkinje cells. Basket cells, stellate cells and Golgi cells regulate Purkinje cell activity, and efferent pathways from the cerebellar cortex originate from the Purkinje cells. Cerebellar afferent pathway from cerebral cortex, that is cortico-pontocerebellar fibers, cerebro-olivocerebellar fibers, cerebro-reticular cerebellar fibers. So these are coming from the cerebral cortex. From the spinal cord, we have the anterior spinocerebellar tract, posterior spinocerebellar tract and cuneo-cerebellar tract. From the vestibular nuclei, vestibulocerebellar tract, mainly from the flocculonodular lobe, and from other areas the red nucleus and tectum. So the afferent pathway, so we have the cortico-pontocerebellar and cerebro-olivocerebellar. Both origin from the frontal, parietal and temporal and occipital lobes of the cerebral cortex. Cortico-pontocerebellar, the main destination is to the pontine nuclei and mossy fibers to the cerebellar cortex. Cerebro-olivocerebellar to the inferior olivary nucleus and climbing fibers to the cerebellar cortex. Cerebro-reticulocerebellar, these are sensoromotor areas, mainly to the reticular formation. Anterior spinocerebellar, posterior spinocerebellar and cuneo-cerebellar, they origin from the muscle spindles, tendons and joints. The main destination, the mossy fibers to the cerebellar cortex. The vestibular nerve, mainly to the utricle, saccule and semicircular canals. So main destination, the mossy fibers to the cortex of flocculonodular node. Others coming from the red nucleus and tectum to the cerebral cortex. So main efferent pathways are axons of Purkinje cells, synapse with the cerebellar nuclei. Axons of these neurons form the efferent pathways. They connect red nucleus, thalamus, vestibular nuclei and reticular formation. The fibers entering and leaving the cerebellar peduncles are from superior peduncle, We have the fibers entering the cerebellum and fibers leaving the cerebellum. Fibers entering the cerebellum are ventro-spinocerebellar tract, rostral spinocerebellar tract, tectocerebellar fibers, rubrocerebellar fibers, trigeminocerebellar fibers, hypothalamocerebellar fibers, and choriocerebellar fibers. Fibers leaving the cerebellum are cerebello-rubral fibers, cerebello-thalamic fibers, cerebello-reticular fibers, cerebello-olivary fibers, cerebello-nuclear fibers, and some fibers to hypothalamus and thalamus. So with this we completed the superior cerebellar peduncle. Next, coming to the middle cerebellar peduncle, we have only one fiber, that is pontocerebellar fibers. Coming to the inferior peduncle, so fibers may entering the cerebellum and fibers leaving the cerebellum. Fibers entering the cerebellum are posterior spinocerebellar tract, cuneo-cerebellar tract, olivocerebellar fibers, reticulocerebellar fibers, vestibulocerebellar fibers, anterior external arcuate fibers, fibers of stria medullaris, and trigeminocerebellar fibers. So fibers leaving the cerebellum through the inferior cerebellar peduncle are cerebello-olivary fibers, cerebello-vestibular fibers, cerebello-spinal and cerebello-reticular fibers. So main functions of cerebellum are maintenance of equilibrium, especially balance, posture and eye movements, coordination of half automatic movements of walking and posture maintenance, that is posture and gait, adjustment of muscle tone, motor learning, motor skills and cognitive function. Here balance and equilibrium, motor skills. Coming to the various syndromes, so ataxia, that's incoordination of movements, dysmetria, past pointing, dysdiadochosis, rebound phenomenon of Holmes, gaze ataxia and truncal ataxia, intention tremor, hypotonia, nystagmus. So archicerebellar lesions is medulloblastoma, paleocerebellar lesions is gait disturbances, and neocerebellar lesions is hypotonia, ataxia and tremor. So cerebellar ataxia, so ataxic gait and position. So left cerebellar tumor, space on the right side while standing, steady on the right leg and unsteady on the left leg. Ataxic gait is present. So cerebello-medulloblastoma. So here cerebellar tumors of the vermis. You are going to find truncal ataxia and frequent falling. Child would not try to stand unsupported. So once it is standing, it would not let go of the support. So lesions seen usually are maybe vascular, traumatic or tumor. So it will be usually manifestation unilateral cerebellar lesions. So it's ipsilateral, same side, incoordination. So upper limb arm, intention tremor, terminal tremors at the end movements as in touching nose or buttoning the shirt. So if it affects the lower limb, so wide based unsteady gait. Manifestation of bilateral cerebellar lesions mainly caused by alcoholic intoxication, hypothyroidism, cerebellar degeneration, and multiple sclerosis. So dysarthria, slow and slurred speech, incoordination of both arms, that is intention tremor, cerebellar ataxia, intermittent jerky movements or staggering wide-based unsteady gait, nystagmus. So this is a very common feature in multiple sclerosis. You are going to find impairment of coordination of eye movements, or eyes exhibit rapid to and fro movements. So Charcot's triad, so it's a combination of nystagmus, dysarthria and intention tremor. So it's very highly of the diagnostic of this disease. So coming to the assignment, name the afferent and efferent fibers of the three cerebellar peduncles. Discuss the functions and clinical anatomy of cerebellum. Purkinje cells, mossy fibers, climbing fibers, and synaptic glomeruli. So coming to the clinical problem, a 40-year-old female complained of inability to work properly with her right hand. She would sway on the right side while walking. She would not do rapid pronation and supination on right forearm. Magnetic resonance imaging showed a tumor on the right lobe of the cerebellum. Which cerebellar functions have been lost to give rise to the above symptoms? Name the peduncles of the cerebellum.